Welcome to the winner's circle. I mean, that's good sports. I'm Brandon, and I've been working tirelessly to unmind-fuck the entire city of Denver, Perna. It's the least I could do after I witnessed Johnny Bolin, aka Jedi Bolin, mind-fuck Denver. Typical power move when your Jedi life coach is Adam Pac-Man Jones, but luckily Denver has me, handsome Yoda, to protect them from Johnny Bolin. Even my good looks, though, still don't get me laid as much as Johnny or Pac-Man, apparently. The biggest problem for the Titans, other than if you Google Titans, they are the third thing to show up, is that they still don't know if Marcus Mariota is a bad quarterback. At least we know who Joe Flacco is here in Colorado. Today, I'll break down the Titans versus Broncos game, a dignified battle between two teams at the bottom of their divisions. Sorry, Mike Vrabel, Gardner Minshew's mustache is more powerful than yours. And I am more powerful than Johnny Bolin. That's good sports. Hey, if you're a fan of football and bad comedy, then this YouTube channel is worth a subscription. Also, I have Big Dick Patreon shoutouts for Seth Powell, who donated $20 and wanted me to wish his girlfriend Gabby, aka Jackie Munn, a happy birthday. I told Seth this video would be up Friday, but it's actually going up Saturday morning. But happy birthday or late birthday, Jackie Munn. Then we have James Robertson, Cubby Wilson, Cole Beeler, Brevity, Please Have My Children, I don't know if I can, Brussel Wilson, sounds healthy, and Festival Funeral. If you want to support this channel, you can do it at patreon.com/thatsgoodsports. The Broncos did sign fullback Andy Janovich to a 3-year extension worth $5.7 million. Jano will make $3.22 million guaranteed, making him the third highest paid fullback in the NFL. The Broncos decided to up Jano's salary after Philip Lindsay said the two were like a married couple. This was Jano's response to Lindsay's sultry quote.
My wife actually told me about that. And I asked him if he wanted a ring and if he knew that he's going to be the girl in the relationship. And so, but he's a goofy guy. He's a great guy.
The only thing more painful you will see than Jano insinuating he would make Philip Lindsay a power bottom if they were married is being hit by Jano in the A-gap.
And I asked him if he wanted a ring and if he knew that he's going to be the girl in the relationship. And so.
Anyway, the Broncos do get a half-point advantage for home field. Coach versus coach. Given Tennessee's 2-3 start, I'm concerned for the Titans' Super Bowl chances. But I'm very relieved for Mike Vrabel's dick. No, seriously, that's not a joke. Mike Vrabel said he would cut his dick off in exchange for a Super Bowl win, explaining that after 20 years of marriage, you don't really need it anyway. Vic Fangio, presumably, still has a dick intact. And speaking of things under the belt, his meatballs got their first win as a head coach last week. I would imagine that first win was ultra satisfying considering how close he was in 2 other games. Mike Vrabel has chimed in to mention he would not use the term ultra satisfying to describe his marriage. Here's the thing about Vrabel. On one hand, I'm very impressed with how he gets his team to play after a loss. On the other hand, I'm disappointed with how he gets his team to play after a win. At least Vic Fangio has had his team on some kind of streak this season. I call this matchup wash. Broncos defense versus Titans offense. Now, it does truly suck that corner Devontae Bosby had to be placed on IR after he suffered a scary cervical sprain in the last game. Replacing his production in the secondary will be a challenge, and corner Bryce Callahan is the only Broncos player listed as out. Brave of him, since the NFL is not typically accepting of that sort of thing. Even with the turnover drought ended, the Broncos' Justin Simmons nearly fumbled the ball away during his interception. Luckily, Duke Dawson was right there to snatch it up, but it's fitting the Broncos needed 2 recoveries on their first turnover of the 2019 season. The Titans are one of 3 teams, along with the Chiefs and Seahawks, who have not thrown a pick yet this season. I guess I should credit Marcus Mariota for that, just as I should credit him for the 3 fumbles Tennessee has given up. But don't expect the Broncos to get a lot of breaks from the Titans offense, except maybe with sacks. Tennessee has been a Jekyll and Hyde type team from week to week, but the one thing that's been consistent is how atrocious their offensive line has been through 5 games. Even Taylor Lewan didn't play great in his first game back. Now, Mariota has been sacked 22 times, more than any other quarterback in the league this year, and that's occurred on about 60 fewer passing attempts than Kyler Murray with 21 sacks and Andy Dalton with 60 sacks. Sorry, Andy Dalton has not been sacked 60 times this season. It's 20. I apologize because I am fucking terrible at talking. They're going to have their hands full with obviously Von Miller, who definitely loves Vic Fangio, but also Malik Reed, who actually never learned to read because he was too busy sacking QBs and might have a favorable matchup against Taylor Lewan, and I never thought I would say that. The flip side there is Taylor Lewan just needed 1 game back to warm up, and he will be a great left tackle again. Now, the Broncos defense was much improved as a whole last week for a couple reasons. Linebacker Alexander Johnson was able to shut down the short passing game, and Mike Purcell on the defensive line, even though he just played 29% of the snaps, affected the Chargers' run game and pushed the pocket back in the passing game. Linebacker Josie Jewell will return to the lineup, but as Mike Kliss teased on Twitter, he may not play linebacker. So, tight end / right tackle helper? What the fuck, Kliss? Now, Tennessee's leading receiver is A.J. Brown, who looks way bigger to me than DK Metcalf on the field, and has 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's basically been what they hoped Corey Davis would be when they took him in the first round in 2017. Now, I have Delaney Walker on my fantasy, all of my fantasy teams, so if Tennessee has to score, let it be him. Derrick Henry is good for 1 200-yard rushing game per year, but the Broncos already gave that away to Leonard Fournette. Suck it, Henry. Advantage? Broncos. Joe Flacco versus Marcus Mariota. Joe Flacco is still turning the ball over in big moments. It seems like he can only play well in the first and fourth quarter, and then relies on the defense to keep them in it for the middle part of the game. But I think Broncos fans can learn something from Titans fans, and it's called patience. They've given Marcus Mariota more time to develop than any other QB in the modern NFL era, which according to me started the day John Elway retired. This is Mariota's 5th season, and he's only 25 years old, which means he got his first start when he was just 12. Much like the Broncos in their current state, the Titans and Mariota are impossible to decipher. Mariota has 103 passer rating, 7 touchdowns and 0 interceptions, with 2 3-touchdown games and 2 0-touchdown games, with just 2 wins to show for it. He's basically the embodiment of his whole team. 6 of those touchdowns came in 2 games, just 1 in the other 3, so he will either throw 3 touchdowns on Sunday in a win or 0 in a loss. Here's the sad truth. Mariota has only played well against shit defenses this year. His 2 big games were against the Browns and the Falcons. Atlanta would be allowing the highest passer rating in NFL history if it weren't for the fucking terrible Dolphins defense. But they are giving up the 3rd most points per game. Cleveland's defense was exposed by the 49ers on Monday Night Football and give up a 4th worst 150 rushing yards per game. I like Flacco slightly more because he seems to play the same regardless of the talent he faces. A weird strength of his. Advantage? Flacco. Barely. Special teams versus special teams. Broncos returner Deontay Spencer has a bad habit of deciding he's going to catch a punt regardless of where he is on the field, specifically on the 5-yard line. It's great because, he is catching the ball, but the general rule of thumb is if the ball crosses the 10, let the ball bounce into the end zone, Deontay. Brandon McManus made a long field goal to ensure the Broncos would win last week, but after a perfect preseason, he has missed 3 important kicks so far this year. He missed from 54 in Los Angeles, an extra point attempt to tie the game that didn't count against the Bears, and an extra point against the Green Bay Packers that at the time was kind of significant. All very minor complaints compared to the Titans kicking situation. The Titans were so desperate that they signed Cody Parkey, whose last field goal is still pinballing off of the Bears' uprights. Cairo Santos missed 4 kicks last week in their loss to the Bills. Here's the thing, Titans. Stop taking former Chiefs kickers and send the Broncos a thank you card for giving you Brett Kern. We don't fuck over teams who take our kickers like the Chiefs. It's the Broncos' promise. Cairo Santos replaced Ryan Suckup, who both came way of KC. It's not rocket math, guys. Gooch advantage, Broncos. Denver offense versus Tennessee defense. The Broncos offense isn't quite clicking on all cylinders, but it's getting closer. At least I hope this isn't the ceiling with Joe Flacco. He's pretty tall, so it might be the ceiling. It could be a tough day through the air as Tennessee is only giving up about 250 passing yards per game, 10th best in the league right now. Denver's secondary is actually 4th best. But here's a matchup to watch. Emmanuel Sanders versus Malcolm Butler. Sanders has gotten the best of Butler pretty much every time they've gone against each other. Now, a lot of that may have had to do with the Patriots doubling Demaryius Thomas, usually with Logan Ryan, who, funny enough, is the Titans' other starting corner. The Titans are the 14th ranked rushing defense going up against Denver's 20th ranked rushing offense, but one that's getting better seemingly every week. Phillip Lindsay and Royce Freeman are both averaging over 4.5 yards per carry. Tennessee's linebackers, though, are a very underrated unit between Jayon Brown, Rashaan Evans, and Harold Landry, who has 4 sacks in 5 games. But none of that matters now that Jano is back to bulldoze them into the fucking dirt while looking over at Wesley Woodyard and saying, "The only reason this isn't you is because Brandon Perna still wishes you were a Bronco, old man." That's right, Wesley, I love you. Now, I reached out to TitansTube on Twitter. Check out their YouTube channel, especially if you love the Titans, to ask them what they thought about the Titans, who their biggest weakness was, and maybe a underrated player. They said, "We're so good at football, we often beat ourselves," which is very similar to the Broncos this year. They also added, for weaknesses, offensive line and Cody Parkey, and that the underrated player is linebacker Jayon Brown, who Will Keys already wrote into this episode, so thanks for nothing, TitansTube. Now, he's not underrated, but my biggest fear is safety Kevin Byard picking off a Joe Flacco deep ball at the end of the game. Tennessee gets a half-point advantage here. Now, I still may be drunk from the fumes of the first Broncos win of 2019. Tennessee and Denver, very similar teams right now, so I think this game will be ugly and close. Broncos do have the point advantage, so who the hell am I to not say Denver wins this one 17-14. Both teams will have the exact same 2-4 record. Same Z's, same Z's, same Z's. Thanks for watching another episode of That's Good Sports. Please subscribe here on the YouTubes of the tubes of the U's. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, at Brandon Perna, if you want to follow me in those places. You can tell me your football takes, and I will either like the tweet or ignore you. Make sure you follow at Wilkie6 on Twitter.